Welcome to our 6-month edition of doing these tech talks, and today's no different. We engage team members around outreach to the community at large, whether it's in DevSecOps. We have a lot of IT software engineers and so on, and we also engage the community around professional organizations. And today we are grateful for having Dave Grolling and Tom Fisher from URISA, both at the national and local level here in the Mid-Atlantic, Chesapeake area. So we're going to throw it to them in a second. My name is Ghermay Araya. I'm the CEO of New Light Technologies and a URISA member. And today we're joined with co-hosts Carl Anderson, who I think is on his way to joining and might have already joined, and Rob Pitts. Actually, we are honored to have Rob Pitts because he's been a long time URISA member and GISP and a lot of involvement in URISA over the years as well. So I think we have a great team to support you guys as we move forward into that. And I think we've made you Dave and Tom also co-hosts to share presentations or any kind of material. So with that, I want to welcome you guys and thank you for joining us. So I'm going to throw it over to Tom to give us an introduction of who he is, how he's connected to URISA at the national level, what URISA is about, a quick intro, and then Dave, and then we can get into some details and topics. So Tom, welcome. How are you?
Hello. Yes, I'm Tom Fisher. I am actually the GIS administrator for Cuyahoga County in Cleveland, Ohio area, up on Lake Erie. I actually, how I'm tied to URISA is I'm actually a board member. This is my second year on the board. Also a member of the Ohio chapter. Been a member of URISA since early days of my career actually became a URISA member in the early 2000s. So about 5 years into my career in GIS, became a URISA member. And so that's sort of my background as far as URISA is concerned. And my professional experience, I've actually got about 25 years of planning GIS as well as information technology GIS.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Yep.
And then Dave, a quick intro from you. And then we haven't met in person yet, but you're out here in the East Coast. So love to get a quick intro on you, and then we move to the other team members as well.
Sure. I'm Dave Grolling. My day job is as a GIS strategist with a local nonprofit to DC called the American Academy of Family Physicians. And I work on a mapping platform called Health Landscape around population and public health. And with URISA, I'm a relative newbie compared to Tom. I joined URISA maybe about 2017, and I've been attending GIS Pros and the Health and Human Services Symposium tied under URISA since, and I'm also tied with Chesapeake chapter of URISA, which we'll get into a little later.
Fantastic. I know Rob is on the call. I'd love to get Rob introduced here, maybe a little bit about your background and engagement with URISA, both personally.
Yes, sure. Hello there. Nice to meet you, gentlemen. My name's Rob. I'm a longtime program manager with New Light. Focused primarily on our federal work, but also other corporate activities. My background is in GIS and geography and enterprise system development, and then project management. So sort of a combination of fields now over time. And I've definitely been to a number of the URISA conferences, and think that's been super valuable, especially the state and local network that it brings together. I don't think there's any other kind of organization like it in the country. And that's been really, really something I've valued over my career. So maybe back to you, G.
Yeah, we are I think Carl is on and can talk. I'd love to get a quick intro on Carl, maybe a little bit about your background with it, with URISA, and your experience so far, and as you help guide this conversation. I know you've got hop off pretty quickly here, so I'd love to get your insights and a quick introduction, Carl.
So I am a past board member, past treasurer, past president of URISA. I've been involved since 1993. The organization's had lots of changes, as has the industry, so that makes sense. But I'll say this: there are two things that really stand out to me, and a number of friends who are very active in URISA say, once they got involved with URISA, every job they got after was connected to URISA. And they weren't moving to worse jobs. They were moving to better and better jobs, more and more authority, more and more effectiveness. Every job helped them. And that URISA itself helped them work out ideas they were thinking about in ways that made them meaningful to the people they were dealing with. So they could use URISA as a sounding board, a place to figure out what's going on, and then apply it to everything else that's going on. And those two bits stick with me entirely, that if you had an org you could belong to, that in the future, every job you get came from it based on your active participation. Yeah. Oh my God.
Fantastic. And I know a lot of people who have done that, and it's a very technical organization as well. So it's not just the conferences and so on, but you have a lot of stuff. So this is the perfect group of people. We got depth in history, some of the future looking activities. So I think if we can get Tom at a bigger picture level, tell us more about URISA. Where is it now as a national organization? What's some of the future looking activities? Then dovetail that with Dave. That would be great. Tom, throw it back to you. Do you want to present anything?
Yeah, let me throw up on my my screen here, and just so that that we're all. I don't know. Can you all see my screen here? My sharing. Okay. So what I like to do is give an introduction on URISA itself before I get into all the great things that URISA does. So first of all, we as an organization, we were founded in 1963 at the University of Southern California. The name URISA, it's actually an acronym, but it stands for the Urban and Regional Information Systems Association. That's a long way of saying that we're your GIS professional association. The three main pillars of the strategic plan of URISA, and actually was just recently updated, is to protect and promote and grow the GIS profession, support GIS professionals in all stages of their career with essential training and resources, and sustain and strengthen the organization. So those are the three things that I really want to kind of focus on in my presentation here. First thing, let's see if I can advance the screen here. There. Oh, gotta go back.
Probably like an up arrow or something.
Yeah, I keep doing that, and I don't know this. the new PowerPoint is let's create props. Anyway, so let me talk a little bit about the URISA Board of Directors. We have a majority of us are GISPs, but we actually have a very diverse set of skills and backgrounds, just the same way GIS is. And so we have PEs, PLSs, ENP, ITIL, to name a few. I'm actually an AICP. We have, so we really run the gamut, and we're located all across the United States as board members, as well as Canada. We do have, a number of really key task force committees, work groups that I want to touch on, such as like GIS Corps is one that many people have heard about, but we also have Professional Education Committee, Policy Advisory Committee, two that actually have just come out in a very sort of, a part of the discussion and very relevant today is GIS and Social Equity and Justice Work Group, and the newly created Pro Equity and Anti-Racism Committee. So you ask, what are some of the current things that these committees and workforces are doing? Well, let's talk about the most relevant. Right now, we have the Pro Equity and Anti-Racism Committee. That's more of an internal facing committee. That actually was situated so that we could actually help improve our understanding of how race and gender and all the things that make us different and make us unique actually help support this organization. And so it's to actually help us remove long-standing organizational institutional biases that we may have, and they bring, and we don't know that we bring them. So that's more of an internal facing. But we also have the GIS and Social Equity Justice Work Group, which is external facing. So two of the things that they've recently just put out are two positions on anti-racism and pro-equity social justice statement for URISA, which is available on our website. That was published on September 9th. And then just recently, in fact, earlier this, I believe it was actually last Friday, there was an open letter to acknowledge and combat anti-Asian hate. So two things that have been very prominent in the news recently. URISA is on the forefront in these areas and reacting positively in that regard. GIS Core has really been focused a lot lately on the COVID response, as you can imagine. Our Professional Education Committee has put together an Excellence in GIS webinar series. So all of the ESIG award winners, from years past, or I believe from last year, presenting their actual good work in webcast. And then this afternoon, in fact, we are doing a Preparing for GIS Certification webinar. So go to the website, you can log on there. The most recent issue that the Policy Advisory Committee has taken on is a Legato GPS interference issue. And that's where we understand the issue that's facing the GIS industry, and we'll put together position papers, or we'll actually try to influence the political landscape. We're not lobbyists, but we understand that there are issues that URISA can actually help support. In that space, with our numbers and our membership. The Vanguard Cabinet, two current things that they're doing. Coalition of Young Professionals is a way for URISA to liaise with young professionals across the country and in user groups and other state chapters. But the one that's really is just launched, and you can actually sign up on our website. You don't actually have to be a URISA member to participate in this, but it's putting mentors and mentees together in the URISA Mentoring Network. I personally have signed up, and I am mentoring a student from William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. So actually, it's very rewarding on both sides, both the mentee side as well as the mentor side. So I encourage folks to take a look at that. And then Nextgen 911 Task Force, there's going to be an expert panel today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can actually sign up in that on our website. And then one of the things that URISA has been involved in heavily over the years is addressing. In fact, I believe New Light Technologies actually had a webinar a couple of weeks ago with Martha Wells. She is an expert in the addressing area, and we have a number of people in URISA that are experts in Nextgen 911 and addressing. So the idea is that we're going to put together a summit in early 2022. Let's see here. And I'm not sure if I can actually advance this or not.
I think maybe just press this.
There we went. Sorry. Essential training. Many people have talked about this. So leadership. That's the one thing that URISA really wants to emphasize is that we're leaders in the space of GIS. And so we want to train people to become leaders. We actually have a virtual GLA coming up here in April. I believe there's still seats available, but we actually try to get out to where the GIS professionals are. So we have scheduled a Portland, on location in August, St. Petersburg, Florida in November. And then Minneapolis, Minnesota was actually supposed to take place here this past summer, but we've rescheduled to December because of the COVID issues. Tomorrow is the deadline to present your abstracts for consideration for GIS Pro, which is actually happening in the Chesapeake, DC, Baltimore area. That is actually taking place in October. GIS Pro occurs every year, and it is a premier GIS experience for training and education and learning all about the great work that people are doing across the country. And then finally, another one of the areas that URISA specializes in is GIS valuation technologies. And so that's actually a partnership with our partner organization, IAAO, the International Association of Accounting Auditors, or accountants, or I'm sorry. Appraisers, association. So that actually took place last week, but actually occurs on an annual basis as well. Supporting GIS professionals in all stages of their career. So Vanguard Cabinet is for our young professionals. But again, we actually work closely with the GIS Certification Institute and GISP. I just mentioned the Leadership Academy. So as you grow in your career and become a leader, that's one of the areas where you can actually hone those skills. GIS Core is available to anybody in the GIS community that wants to give back and contribute to GIS and use your talents, to help support those in need. Then we also have, and Rob Grolling will speak to this, the Chapter Development and Relations Council, which is where all of the chapters of URISA that come together and they share concepts and ideas from across the country. So it's a great way to cross-pollinate, concepts from California all the way to the DC area. And then finally, for those that that actually excel and do amazing things in GIS, URISA has what's called the GIS Hall of Fame. And so that is not just for individuals, but also for organizations. And you are encouraged to, if you believe that there is a person or an organization that's risen to the level of Hall of Fame status, they accept nominations every year. And I believe those are due by the end of May 31st this year. So
fantastic.
Chapters, and this, I'm close to wrapping up here. I'm going to get into Dave Grolling, but one of the ways we strengthen and sustain our organization is by actually going to where the URISA, or to the URISA and GIS professionals are. This is a list of all of our chapters across the United States. If you do not see your state or region listed, by all means, we're very interested in talking to you and about starting a URISA chapter locally. We are in Canada and the Caribbean as well. And we also have partners in Australia. So we are a truly international organization and have a global presence. We also have corporate partners. And as you can see, New Light Technologies is one of those, as well as a bunch of other ones. These are the folks that actually help educate and about the new and emerging technologies in GIS for our members. And so they attend and support a lot of the webinars as well as GIS Pro. So we're very grateful to have them as partners. And then we also have strategically aligned peers. This is just a sampling of those where we actually have members of our URISA, either board or members of URISA, actually liaise with these different groups. GISCI, we actually have 2 URISA representatives on the GISCI board of directors for the GISP. All the way to national, states, Geographic Information Council and county, IAAO. So if there's an organization out there that has to do with GIS, the chances are that URISA is actually strategically aligned with these peers and liaise with them. So, like Simon Sinek says, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. So please join URISA and help us, support the GIS profession and all that we do. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That was excellent, Tom. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really nice segue to get some of the background of what URISA is about. And so I think that dovetails really nicely, Dave, with your presentation. And so get at it. Uh,
All right, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
and see your screen, Dave.
Okay, well, welcome to this wonderful opportunity to give a chance to speak with everyone else. Thanks to Tom for giving a really nice lead into what we do at Chesapeake URISA. He, like I said before, he has a wealth of experience and know-how in the industry, and I really wouldn't be here talking to you all without a lot of his help over the past couple of years to do the things that we've been doing with Chesapeake URISA. So Chesapeake URISA is a chapter of URISA, and we cover our footprint covers DC professionals in Washington, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and they can either live or work in GIS. So we cover kind of a large footprint there. And specifically who we are, we're, as Tom mentioned, part of the Chapter Development Relations Council. We're one of up to about 20 different chapters, and they range from national organizations to international. And within the national organizations, those could be a single state chapter, or those could be a multi-region or multi-state region chapter like the Chesapeake chapter. We are also a network of about 220 growing GIS professionals. We have a slow growth, but we do grow. And we include everyone who wants to be a member. We don't incur any kind of membership fees, so we kind of remove that blockage from other kind of organizations. And we open doors to anyone that's not just URISA members, but also AAG members or Azure User Group members, anyone who really wants to be a part of URISA at the local level. We're also a tax-exempt nonprofit under 501c3, which I'll get into in just a little bit on our timeline. And we are, since our kind of 2018 or so rejuvenation as a chapter, we are a completely virtual chapter. So even with COVID, it's been kind of a smooth transition with keeping order of operations. So I've been really associated with the chapter since about December 2018, January 2019. But I do know that the Chesapeake chapter itself existed since the 1980s, I believe. So it existed throughout the 80s and 90s, and then in the 2000s and 2010s, it kind of, I believe it went through this kind of oscillation phase of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And by the time I attended my first GIS Pro in 2017 in Jacksonville, I think that was it. I heard about this thing about URISA chapters at the local levels, and I really wanted to get involved, but then I realized there wasn't a chapter, so I couldn't. Fast forward a year later, I went to another GIS Pro, basically same thing, and I asked the same questions to myself, but then I actually did something about it, and I contacted URISA to reach out to Wendy Nelson, the current executive director of URISA. And I think Tom was also on those emails to get a feel for how do I get involved with the chapter that doesn't exist. And so we had emails to go back and forth with URISA leadership, and kind of got pegged into the what Tom called the CDRC meetings, the Chapter Development Relations Council meetings. It's really an arena for other chapter leaders and chapter board members to come together and talk about knowledge transfer, about development, how chapters can continue developing even though they're a strong freestanding chapter, or chapters like Chesapeake chapter that really are starting almost from nothing. So it's a good information flow kind of arena. So after that point, we had developed our member base with the help of URISA. We had our first member meeting in June of 2019, and that consisted of just me talking about where we can go as a chapter, how we can restart, and kind of what is happening as a conduit between Chesapeake chapter and URISA at large. And then by September of that year, we nominated a board of directors, which was 5 different positions: the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and a membership coordinator. A couple months later, we were assigned a DC state incorporation as a freestanding organization. So we are a chapter of URISA, but we are a freestanding organization So there is a disconnect, but also a connection with URISA. And with that came an EIN, so we were able to open up our own bank account. We launched a chapter website, which if we have time today, I can cover, or I can just drop it in the chat box. Last June, we also started launching, with the inspiration of another chapter, the Texas chapter of URISA, a monthly speaker series where we invite national organizations and members within our chapter to give 45 to 60-minute presentations on topics of their choosing. And I can also go into detail about what some of those speaker series webinars have been doing for us. August of last year, we, after applying in about a 6-week waiting period, we were granted 501c3 tax exempt status. And then in September, we held our first annual election, kind of reappointing our vice president and our president position to the board of directors. And earlier this month, we sent an application to URISA to be included to request for a one URISA adoption, which is the new unified membership model that URISA is pushing for, to get all chapters together under one cohesive kind of plan. So from an operations standpoint, we do, in between all those other things that I aforementioned in the previous slide, we do member meetings, and these cover chapter operations and chapter administration updates, member presentations. So we always invite a chapter member to be a part of our member meetings, and they give a 10-15-minute presentation about what they're doing in their backyard. So they could be talking about a project at work or something special to them outside of work in terms of spatial science or GIS. It's also an opportunity to convey upcoming events or anything that I hear through the pipeline and the various committee meetings that I attend with URISA, news from URISA that they might not hear otherwise, and also volunteer opportunities. We are 100% volunteer organization, so we rely on volunteers. We also do presentations. So we've done a couple of different presentations. We did a presentation with Johns Hopkins University Data Science Group for a GIS Day event a couple of years ago, as well as a presentation to the University of the Potomac, just basically detailing what URISA is and what we do at the grassroots level. We also did a workshop in 2019 on program management. This was a URISA certified workshop. We're hoping after we get through some operation funds challenges, we will get into doing more workshops because URISA offers several different licenses for workshop topics that we can offer our members and national members at large that we would like to get into and do more of. We also do some membership engagement, and this is just communication through emails or social media, surveys, and networking. Try to connect everyone since we are exclusively a virtual chapter. So from an administration standpoint, we maintain a member base of GIS professionals living or working in the DMV area. Our membership comes solely from people who either contact us from in our chapter website. We have a contact us button, so we've gotten a number of people expressing interest who I guess I see it as a safety net, who aren't in their daily lives exposed to URISA, but come across an organization at the local level. They contact us, and they would like to be a part of the chapter. We also get a member database download from URISA that sends quarterly all the new members, so we apply those to our listserv. We also form and manage our chapter board. So we talked about the 5 different positions that are part of our board of directors. And these also include 1 to 2 meetings per year of just the board of directors to really kind of steer the chapter and to vote on things as it relates to the running of the chapter. We also review our chapter bylaws, and these are just basically governing document to outline the rules of how our chapter operates. And we've gone through a couple different iterations of those bylaws to kind of massage and amendment massage in new amendments to align with different things over the years. We also went through a state certification with the DC State Secretary of State. No, I forgot his title, but it's the DC contact person that we submit the articles of incorporation to request official organization, and then the assignment of an employer identification number. Like I said before, that allows us to open and manage our own bank account. And then relatively new, late last year, we were granted a 501c3 status. And then earlier this month, we submitted our taxes for the first time, which was kind of neat. So we also do events and outreach. We do quarterly member meetings. We usually invite just a random member, and they give a presentation of their choosing. I also mentioned we started doing these speaker series webinars since last June. So we've done all sorts of things related to census 2020 and mapping, asset management, web GIS with Joseph Kursky from Esri. Last one was utilities GIS. We had an organization called Nearmap come in and give a presentation. They would also like to come in and give a second presentation later this year. November 2020, we did an education themed GIS Day webinar where we had Matt Garricky, who kind of heads up the URISA Professional Education Committee. He gave a wonderful presentation on education and lifelong learning as it applies to spatial data and GIS. And we also get involved with URISA, so there's a lot of initiatives and nonprofit kind of parts of URISA, like the GIS Pro planning. So we had a heavy hand in the planning of GIS Pro last year because it was planned before COVID hit that GIS Pro 2020 was going to happen in Baltimore in person. They had to pivot to a virtual conference. So this year, as Tom mentioned, GIS Pro 2021 will take place in Baltimore, given public health situation with COVID that may happen virtually again. So we have several members who are part of that GIS Pro planning committee to help with program development, scheduling, networking opportunities, social events, and whatnot. There's the Vanguard Cabinet, which Tom also mentioned. We have a liaison within our chapter to the Vanguard Cabinet that exists to open a kind of door between the Vanguard Cabinet and the Chesapeake chapter for all things related to young professionals in URISA and the Chesapeake region. There's the Professional Education Committee. We also communicate with them to do webinars and to kind of keep that flow going both ways. And then of recently coordination, we've gotten involved with the URISA PAC, the Policy Advisory Committee. So we have several members in the Chesapeake region who have a strong presence within the URISA PAC. And also there's that coordination between those two groups. So how do you get involved, and not just with URISA, but Chesapeake chapter? If anyone works in the GIS in the DMV area, all you really do is just reach out to us and ask if you want to be a part of our chapter, and we'll add you to our list. If you're not in the DMV area, I don't know if there's anyone not in the DMV area on this call, but as Tom mentioned, there's a wealth of other chapters in different areas of the country and international, and it's really just a matter of reaching out to them. As I mentioned a couple slides ago, if there isn't a chapter, it's really a matter of just contacting someone. And once you write that first email, you're already committed. And I haven't been able to stop. I can't get out of it, thanks to Tom and Wendy. But it's been really great a learning experience to see this chapter kind of start from almost nothing to where it is now. Currently, membership to the Chesapeake chapter is free. That may change in the near future as we adopt into this one URISA membership model. And we're always looking for volunteers to help out with things from social media coordination. We have a Twitter and LinkedIn account. We are also looking for liaisons between chapter and URISA, or chapter and external organizations. Like AAG or NISJIC or MISJIC at the local level. We also are looking for volunteers to serve on our board of directors. This September, we have our upcoming annual elections. I will be stepping down, our vice president will be stepping up, and we have several positions that might be open for contention if anybody from our chapter would like to be a part of the board. We also do event coordination, so all of our membership, member meetings, the events for those, the chapter speaker series, all of that is volunteer led and board of director led to find those organizations to come in and give presentations. So volunteers are needed to go out and seek more speaker series for those events. There's also the GIS Pro planning, so getting involved with helping out the URISA for GIS Pro, and also ad hoc presentations, webinars, and workshops. So looking ahead for the chapter, what we're doing and what we have on deck, next month is our next speaker series on April 16th. That will be on mapping inequalities. GIS Pro 2021, with whether it's in person in Baltimore or virtual, those conference planning committees will be existing monthly all the way up until September and October. We are currently working on our sponsorship outreach. We've decided recently to forego membership dues and make membership within the chapter completely free. But since there's always cost with doing things, we need to reach out and look for sponsorship to help keep the chapter afloat and get some startup funds. We are also looking at getting involved with K through 12. I've been emailing with one of our chapter members to kind of possibly approach teachers in the DC DMV area, middle schools or high schools, just to do presentation for one of their classes to talk about what URISA is, what GIS is, what spatial data is, and hopefully that prospective relationship is a two-way relationship. We also have upcoming webinars from NearMap, the US Geospatial Intelligence Foundation, and others being planned for the rest of 2021. And hopefully we can repeat something for GIS Day 2021 because it was well received last year. It's also a really wonderful opportunity to bring in non-URISA folks to our chapter and to URISA to talk about the goings-ons of non-URISA dealings. Our current board of directors is right here. We have 5 individuals. If you would like to reach out to any of these, including myself, our email address is info@chesapeakeurisa.org. Our website is chesapeakeurisa.org if you would like to check it out for latest events in the DC area, not just for the chapter, not just for URISA, but there's meetup.com events, there's Esri user group events that we usually post there. So it's really just a kind of go-to resource for various things related to spatial and GIS in the DMV area. And then if you want to learn more about URISA and URISA chapters at large, there's a link right there. You can share these slides after this presentation. So, and that's it for me.
Wow, that was excellent. That was a nice national level flow right into yours, Dave, with the local stuff. And there's so much wealth of information you shared there. And I know that all of that is on the website. So I did drop both URLs for anyone who's on the call, and then we'll make sure that when we clean up the load, we'll highlight where those links are for when we communicate that to outside of NLT. This is excellent. Rob is going to take it from here and see where we want to take the conversation next. I'm sure there's a ton of questions. Feel free, anyone, to write your questions on here on the chat, as well as just open up your mic.
Yeah. Well, I have one just to start out with. I was very interested in what you mentioned about the interest in connecting with schools in the local community. I was wondering if you have done some of that already, or if that's an entirely new engagement. And then I was also curious about connections with the local universities too, in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. There's a lot of great universities, and I'm wondering if there's any coordination with experts from those organizations, maybe to help with this too. So.
Sure. So the whole venture is relatively new for us. It's something that's always been kind of on the back burner to explore because, get them while they're young, right? And I think Esri just released a whole publication series of kids in GIS books, Lindsay the GIS Explorer, something like that, or something, which is really cool. So there's a need for that. And we are working with a member whose daughters are in 5th or 6th grade, and he contacted them before, and their teacher was receptive to having someone come in and just talk about GIS. What is GIS? Kind of rooting it all the way down to the bare essentials to get that GIS is more than maps, more than pretty pictures that show you how to get from place A to place B. So it's a very brand new venture. I still need to contact this person and have a kickoff meeting about what we are hoping to get out of this relationship, out of this venture. So hopefully more on that to come. In terms of the higher education perspective, I'm an alumni of the University of Maryland at College Park, and I'm routinely in contact with Dr. Jack Ma, who kind of co-chairs the MPS GIS program there, Master's of Professional Studies in GIS, and which actually is now called something else, I forget. But I contact him every now and then about different things that we're doing to try to needle ourselves into their listserv to help them promote stuff on our side. And that's really the extent, but I'm well aware that it's a niche that we really need to fill. It's just, like all things, it's just a volunteer challenge.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, one thing that comes to mind, in addition to the College Park group, it would be the Salisbury University and some of the folks down there. I think, being on the Eastern Shore, they could bring a lot to the Chesapeake part of the equation, and they have a really strong program as well, especially for undergraduates. So I just want to recommend that, and be happy to help make some of those connections if you're interested.
Yes.
This is a great segue, Rob. Pulling it back a little bit at the national level, I know that URISA does a lot of activities around education, and maybe this is a good roll back up to you, Tom, to talk about that. And I know Carl Anderson, if he's able to talk, has done some educational outreach and so on. So there are things going on. This would be a nice national view as well.
Well, and what I will say is our Vanguard cabinet and the coalition of young professionals, that is an avenue by which young professionals actually can work with URISA International. The mentoring program is another one that, again, like I said, I mentor a young lady, a student at William and Mary. I believe we have a number of those students that have reached out and are part of this, looking for a mentor that are in the university systems. We do have a number of board members that are actually in the university system as well. So Kevin Mickey he works at UIPUI, or Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis. Susan Kamiai is actually with University of Southern California. And then Steven Steinberg is actually a PhD and a professor. He works for Los Angeles County now, but he's also a professor, I believe, in the UC education system. So, I think it's a recognition that URISA, that our future resides in those college and university students. I will also say too that these two. Equity and social justice and anti-racism, a lot of those, those committees are actually focused heavily too on, understanding the collegiate transition into the profession making sure that there's a diverse group of individuals, that maybe start out in GIS, but that they actually transition all the way through, matriculate through the system and actually graduate and become GIS professionals. Regardless of race, creed, gender, that type of thing. So, yeah, it's very much an area that URISA appreciates and knows that there's a need there.
Yeah, there's a nice, neat connection between getting an undergraduate or a graduate program education in GIS and connecting that with something like URISA. And continuing that education towards the GIS certified professional track. There was some debate as to, and I think URISA did a great survey a few years back around hiring practices. Does it make a difference if someone has a GISP or not, and that track over the number of years? And I know URISA made some adjustments to get educational track to not necessarily, not everyone has the experience yet to become a GISP. So there's a couple of tracks to get a GISP, but that's a nice, neat connection up to that. Carl Anderson, who may not be able to talk because I think he's on another meeting, had mentioned something around education outreach as well. But in terms of the relationship of certifications and associations to getting positions and jobs, what kind of services, offerings, capabilities does URISA or the Chesapeake the Chesapeake chapter provide towards helping people find jobs or prepare them for jobs? The trainings and so on obviously do that. Are there job boards that you currently have or plan, and how does it relate to the economic sustainability of individuals, if you will? I'll throw that both at Tom and Dave. Tom, go first.
I'll go first. Sure. So, I'll tell you that, let me mention the mentoring as well. Again, the seasoned professionals that have been in the industry for a while. One of the things that I do in my mentoring is, coach a young professional on, interviewing skills or, looking at their resume to make sure that it's, that it's presented in a light that is attractive to a potential employer. I actually bring my skills as a person who has been a hiring manager, to that equation. Also, as far as a job board is concerned, we actually have this. It's a great piece of interactive tool, I guess. It's called URISA Connect, and all members have access to it. It's a board where we can, where actually, if you know of a position, and I've done this several times, where I just actually post it to there to the Connect, as well as people will let Wendy know all the time, hey, look, we've got this position open, and she'll post it out on Connect. And what that does is it broadcasts to everybody, all the members that have signed up for this Connect viewer. So it's a great way to get the word out. It's a great way for a hiring manager like me to actually look for talent, as well as somebody who is in need of a position, to look for those jobs. I will also add that one of the great things about URISA is the connected nature of all of its membership. So if you are, if you're a member and you're active in URISA, if you and during COVID, this actually became an issue. Some people actually lost their positions. Well, it's a great way to get out, network, and let people know that you're available and are willing to work in GIS. And it's the fabric is so connected that we put people, the need with the people that actually have the skills. So it's it's a family. I'll say that of folks that are part of this URISA network, and so that's another way that we find that we're connecting people with jobs. So
yeah, can you talk a little about sort of that fabric? I think one of the unique things about URISA is the state and local membership, or all the folks in state and local organizations. It's a unique feature. Maybe just talk about how that.
Well, You know what, I will actually mention, so one of the things that I'm actually doing right now is I'm working with my county on Nextgen 911 addressing plan, right? And so I participated and watched Martha Wells with, on New Light Technologies webinar in which she had to say about addressing. She is a person that is a resource to URISA members for that. But the other thing is great is I sent out an email to Connect Viewer, right? And I said, hey, does anybody have a Nextgen 911 addressing standard plan that in your local government? I received so much feedback and so many responses from across the country, literally from California, Arizona, Virginia, you name, New England, you name it, came in. And now I have a great representative cross-section across, from the United States of all of these groups that actually to put these address plans together. Now I can pick and choose, the best parts of one plan versus the other, or those that actually fit what our need here is in Cuyahoga County. I know we're not unique, but we are in some areas. And so I guess there's been plenty of instances where I have actually, have that connected nature has presented itself to me. Kevin Mickey actually is a trainer in HASIS. He was actually my instructor before URISA brought us back together again. Rachel Marquez out in California was in one of my classes. I met her at a GIS Pro again, and we reconnected, and we share so much great information about what she does with Los Angeles County and what I do with Cuyahoga County. It really does bring people of the industry together, and I will say that we are a very diverse group of people in our backgrounds and how we apply GIS in our daily lives. Just having those resources to bounce ideas off of or get feedback on certain things, I found invaluable and it really comes with becoming an active member of URISA. Get involved, meet people. Again, it is a family of very interwoven, connected folks. That I guess it's like a gym membership, right? You get out of it what you put into it. So, if you go to the gym and you work out, you're going to get real strong. If you become a member of URISA and you become active in URISA, sky's the limit on things you can do.
That's a great analogy,
Yep.
Tom. We got to write that down a little better.
Yeah.
and so this segues from a question in the chat. One of our members up in New York is asking about local chapter participation if there's not one. And I know, Dave, you had a slide where one of which was, ways to get involved, both if you have a chapter or you don't, from outside, let's say a DMV Chesapeake area. So if you want to address that real quick, Dave, in addition to the other things.
Sure. So, if there's no chapter in New York, there's adjacent chapters. There's the Mid-Atlantic chapter, there's New England chapter in Ohio. I don't know what those individual organizations would be amenable to having a friend of the chapter from a different state that's not in their footprint. But that's one way of kind of wedging yourself in to see what those chapters do and get involved without having to be a chapter member in that footprint. Or you can go my route and start a brand new chapter or restart a chapter. And that's really a matter of identifying the GIS community around you. I think you only need 10 active members to kind of start a chapter. And you can really start off that conversation with URISA Executive Director Wendy Nelson or Tom Fisher, who's heavily involved with the Chapter Development and Relations Council. Really just get that email out of the way and just get the conversation started to start conceptualizing what it means to start a chapter. We have a lot of resources. I've learned a lot of things. Tom has learned a lot of things over the past couple of years of what goes right, what goes wrong, and how to learn from how this whole process is supposed to go. And it's always evolving. Things are always changing with chapter development.
Fantastic. I do want to say thank you, Wendy, who's the Executive Director of URISA, is on the call. So hopefully we've done well there. Wendy, do feel free to step in and correct our ways as you see fit. And
I just wanted to pop in and thank you guys for hosting this first, but I think I need to send Tom and Dave on the road and do a little URISA road show because this has been fantastic.
yeah,
Perfect.
and thank you for joining us, Wendy. And we actually had Sid Pandey on maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago, who is on the Vanguard cabinet, most recent cabinet. So we're definitely going to continue to do our part in small ways to bring URISA to the community we have a connection to give them information. Because just like you said, Tom, I think it's one of those memberships where you put in something, you get something of value. And so with that, I wanted to see if Carl is back, because I know he had a couple things he might wanted to say. We have 5 more minutes. And if not, I'm going to throw it back over to you, Rob, for a last question. And then if Tom and Dave can wrap us up for anything else they wanted to touch point on. But I think this is, you wonder how quickly time goes. It's already 5 minutes till our end. So Rob, throwing it over.
I got one easy tech question. Is there a Slack channel for URISA, or have you thought about that?
So I know that GIS Core has a Slack channel that if you are a member of GIS Core, they actually use Slack, and all of those social medias and other connected technologies regularly. There is no Slack channel at this point for URISA, but we're actually in the process of reviewing our tech stack. And our technology offerings, because obviously, the way you reach members and the way you interact with members, like the Connect, URISA Connect, that's all based in technology, and we're a technology organization. So definitely that's part of the process of review is looking for a Slack channel. I personally am a Slack person, so I would really love to have that. Yep.
Yeah, we use Slack heavily inside the company as well. So Dave, want to close us out with some high level, hey, what's next? What do you want us to do next?
Yeah, so if anyone on this call wants to take part in our Mapping Inequalities speaker series next month on April 16th, just reach out to our chapter and we can send along the registration link. And very high level, I'll just say, the same thing that we've talked to numerous times the past hour is get involved and listen to life, listen to where the opportunities pop up, because you really don't know where they're going to come. And it's really exemplified by URISA. I never would have expected I'd be in this position 2-3 years ago by just writing Wendy an email saying, how do I get involved in my chapter? And yeah. I've grown so much as a person, as a professional, and I can't thank Tom and Wendy and everyone else part of URISA's leadership enough. That's my soapbox for a minute.
It's a great way to wrap it up. Tom, you get the last word.
Absolutely. Well, I will say this, that URISA is comprised of a lot of very passionate GIS professionals. And so if you love what you do, which I believe everybody in this profession loves what they do, please come to urisa.org, sign up, become a member, and get involved. There's all sorts of again, committees and work groups. If it's your niche, we have that for you. So definitely come and join us. A bunch of geo geeks, I guess, if you will, that love what they do. So
yeah, and on our team, we have all levels of experience, and so it's definitely, from those of us who have been in the GIS industry for a while, definitely worth it. There are many ways to get engaged, whether you're inside the company or outside. Just like any other membership organization, I think URISA has a lot to give. Rob, you want to close us out with a final thought here?
Well, I'll say, I started in my GIS career many years ago now in the 90s, and URISA was one of the prominent organizations available as a new professional in the field then, and that remains true today. And you're into more and more opportunities for people to connect. So that says something about the sustainability, the importance, the value that this organization brings. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. That is a wrap. Thank you so much, Dave Grolling, Thomas Fisher, Wendy Nelson has joined us, and thank you so much for Carl. I know he had to drop, but he's been probably listening in to make sure we're good. Rob Pitts for co-hosting today, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye,
Thank you, everybody.
You too.
I know.